We're moving on several fronts, and we've got to bring those two together, and the PFS will enable us to do that for the DSO initially, but then position us for the green steel future.
Hello and welcome to Paydirt TV. I'm Dominic Piper. Today I'm joined by Paul Bibby, Managing Director of AKORA Resources Ltd. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's good to see your face and have a chance to talk to you and the investors and shareholders in AKORA. Thank you. It's
been nearly 2 years, Paul, since we last spoke when AKORA just listed on the ASX. It's been a whirlwind period for the company. You've secured and your projects in Madagascar. You've defined a resource, your Bekisopa project, and now you're really moving on with development. You must be delighted with the progress.
Look, very much. Look, the knowledge that we've generated in the past 2 years has been enormous. We've had 2 very successful drilling programs. We've conducted a whole suite of mineral processing product quality trials, and that has all fed into the mineral resource estimate. So in April of this year, we announced our maiden mineral resource, just under 200 million tonnes of iron ore at Bekisopa from the drilling that we've done to date. And that's only on 2 kilometres of the 6 kilometre strike. And as you can imagine, but because they're drill holes, it doesn't measure the outcropping, which is quite extensive on the surface as well. High grade, 66% iron ore in that outcrop, suitable for DSO. So wonderful work. It's gone super well with our team in Madagascar over the past 2 years. And look, we're very pleased with the results. So we're moving very quickly to get somewhere significant.
So you've produced this inferred resource for Bekisopa, and I see internally you've produced a scoping study as well. Obviously you can't release those numbers to the market yet, but what has it told you about the development chances of Bekisopa?
It's a pity that it can't get out to investors and shareholders, because it answers many of the questions that they bring up about the project. Not just the mining and the processing for the DSO and other products down the track, but also the infrastructure. So look, it's a terrific report put together by Wardell Armstrong. For the board and management, it has been hugely informative and quickly gave us the encouragement and confirmation and encouragement to move to PFS next year on the Bekisopa, particularly the DSO, which is looking so very promising, but then leading into the future products of either fines, high-grade fines, or very importantly, the DRI, direct reduced iron, premium quality concentrate, 68 to 70% iron for pellets for the green steel future. So it has been very informative and very encouraging for us.
So with that DSO project, is that just a starter operation for Bekisopa, or have you got longer term ambitions for the project?
So from the mineral resource estimate and just from our experience in walking the ground at Bekisopa, we believe that there's potentially 15 to 20 million tonnes of DSO suitable material. The mineral resource estimate is saying it's around 8 at the moment, because we've only drilled 30%, and that doesn't include the outcropping material. So based on that, Wardell Armstrong, they put together some practical scenarios, and Oriole Capital has done similar. They've said, okay, if we think that there's 15 or 20 million tonnes of DSO, what is a good project life? You could go and do 10 million for 2 years, but you need a lot of infrastructure. The more sensible thing and the practical thing is to have the minimal capital over 8 or 10 years. So they've put in scenarios of 2 million tonnes per annum, building up to that and going forward, focusing on the DSO, which we've always said is the low capital cost entry, and potentially a good margin at the long-term iron ore price of around 110 US dollars a tonne for the benchmark grade iron ore. And all of our test work and the resource and the drilling has shown that potentially our DSO is more like 64% on average. So we'll get a premium above that, and maybe half of it being lump. So you get the lump premium as well. So I think the DSO is a unique opportunity for AKORA to get into production, low capital costs, good margin, use that profit, that revenue, then to enhance that project and then build the future projects, whether that's be high-grade fines or potentially the DRI concentrate, 68 to 70% iron for the green steel. Because once that comes on board, all of the papers that I've read, all the information that you've seen and investors have seen is saying there's going to be a significant shortfall of this high-grade, low impurity material, and Bekisopa lends itself to producing that product.
Paul, of course, in iron ore always, and in particular in junior iron ore development, infrastructure is the key play. You've been on the ground a lot in Madagascar. What's your assessment of the infrastructure opportunity around Bekisopa?
Okay, look, there's several points to make there. With Wardell Armstrong, who did the scoping study, they sent their engineers to site and visited site to feed back information about the resource, the geology, the environment, the whole bit, but then drove from site to the port of Toliara on the west coast. I think you know Toliara, you've been there. That's where Base Resources is going to centre their facility and port operation. So we drove that road, and I must say I was very, very impressed and actually surprised with the quality of the road. Wardell Armstrong assessed it to be about 80% in good to very good quality, 10% average and 10% poor, but that poor just needed routine maintenance, and which is probably no different to roads around the countryside here in Australia, certainly around Victoria where I live. We need some routine maintenance. So that's a matter of just general practice and improvement. So very encouraged by the road network. It's downhill to the port. Bekisopa and Satrokala, our new prospect, are at about 1,000, maybe 1,100 metres above sea level to the port. And it's a very good road. We're quite surprised. Probably 3 villages that need to be bypassed because they're larger villages and right on the road. But all the other 10, 15, 20 villages are set right back and very small and are not impacted by the road, I don't believe. So that's been done. The bridges have been inspected. So very encouraged by the infrastructure in terms of road. The town of Toliara is a good sized village or town. It's busy. And what we've the engineer from Wardell Armstrong has looked at it and he said, there's no need for us to go into the township with the trucks. We can stop 5-7 kilometres outside of the town, have a stockpiling area, the size of 4 or 6 soccer fields, and then set up a conveying system either to the existing port or probably preferentially, more preferred, would be to go straight out to the deeper water and have a ship loading facility off that conveying system. So they've allowed a good whack of capital for that. And in the feasibility study, more work needs to be done to fine tune that and prove up the solution. But very encouraged by what we saw. The other thing that's interesting in Madagascar is the World Bank has already allocated money for upgrading roads in the northern part of Madagascar to improve the infrastructure because of developing projects there. In the southern part of Madagascar, where AKORA is with Bekisopa, there's potential that a similar thing could happen because there's a number of projects, not just mining, but other projects, agriculture and the like. And the World Bank wants Madagascar to enhance its capability, improve its facilities and infrastructure. So there's a good chance that over time there could be improvement there through World Bank funding.
So where to from here? You've obviously produced a scoping study internally, and groups like Arroyo Capital have put out a research note where they've given their indications of what they think this project could look like. Will you be able to plug those sorts of numbers into the PFS and develop a wider feasibility study for this project?
Now, look, we have to get our resource upgrade because we're limited by having an inferred resource at the moment and what we can say from the scoping studies and everything else. So this year we completed 85 drill holes in the southern area of Bekisopa, totally focused on confirming DSO volumes and grades. Those holes all intercepted iron ore on both the eastern and western side of the southern zone. That is all done at a 50 by 50 metre drill grid. So that should end up being at least indicated and potentially measured resource, focused on the DSO. And then that will enable us to then do the PFS, talk to the scoping study numbers, around that, DSO product and processing. And that'll all start to happen probably by about April of next year.
Thanks, Paul. Congratulations on the progress you've made, and hopefully we can catch up in 2023 and find out that you've doubled down on your efforts and moving even closer towards a development decision.
Thank you, Dominic. Appreciate your time. And look, we'll have more opportunity to talk next year. There's plenty of news to come, and we're moving on several fronts, and we've got to bring those two together. And the PFS will enable us to do that for the DSO initially, but then position us for the green steel future, which is quite exciting. Thank you very much.